dears, I know that this is an off week for my channel. Also apologies to patrons who only got this a couple hours earlier than everybody else did. But I had to make a video about this. My entire TikTok For You page is just overrun with videos about this woman who posted a series about how she feels that she fell in love with her psychiatrist, and I do not want to add to the further discourse on her and the situation specifically. I don't like the pile-on that's been happening, which we're going to talk about in a second, but I have been thinking a lot about the responses I've seen to this situation and this phenomenon that we have that happens every couple months, really, where we turn either clear or borderline clear mental health crises into like an interactable TV show almost, and even the like compassionate videos that I'm seeing talking about this issue usually aren't talking about the side of it, and it's really weirding me out and making me kind of uncomfortable. So we're gonna talk about that. The first thing that doesn't entirely apply to the situation but is still sideways related to it is the sort of like surveillance state situation. Like a couple years ago, there was a woman on a plane who like freaked out that something wasn't real or something wasn't safe on the aircraft, and somebody filmed that and it went viral online, and the woman was publicly identified. And obviously I don't know anything about that person, and it's unclear whether that was some sort of mental health crisis or if she was on some sort of substance or what was going on. But either way, seeing people make fun of this woman and like make fun of this video and recreate it felt really strange to me. I might understand filming it in the case of like this could become an emergency, so somebody should have it on their camera in case that's needed. But then posting that and viewing it as comical and then the internet tracking down who the woman actually is makes me incredibly uncomfortable. The internet's ability to track down people is sometimes great and wholesome, but the majority of the time it just kind of strikes me as creepy. And even in cases where it's not a mental health related thing, like I'm thinking about the Coldplay affair situation, for example, it just feels like a massive overreach. In that specific situation, you could argue maybe it's accountability. Like a CEO and his head of HR definitely should not be together, and so now that has been brought to light and these are the consequences for that behavior. But I still don't think the punishment fit the crime, for lack of a better phrase. Like, sure, not smart to be so blatant about something like that in a public space, nor is it smart to do it in the first place, but suddenly having the entire world know about it and be able to track down who you are and harass the, I believe now, ex-spouses and all of that is just way too much, and it's also just deeply traumatizing for everybody involved. I mean, either way, an affair is traumatizing, but now the entire world is going to connect to these people with this situation and is going to haunt them for the rest of their life, which, again, maybe you could argue is like kind of fair in this situation. I don't think that it is. But even if it was, the fact that this is very normalized at all is kind of freaky to me. Like the amount of people, specifically disabled people that I know who already struggle with social anxiety and or agoraphobia, that are now terrified to go outside to a paralyzing degree because they're scared of somebody filming them and making fun of them and it ruining their life, which is unfortunately a super real thing to be afraid of, because this does keep happening, especially to people who interact with the world differently. And I think to some degree, right, if we're gonna go all academic with it, this is a modern version of the freak show, except people are constantly actively seeking freaks in the wild to put on display and doing that without even talking to them about it. I was gonna say without their consent, but obviously the consent situation with freak shows is incredibly complicated and still is today for modern versions of that, like reality TV, for example, but at least that is closer to consent than whatever the heck has been going on lately with the internet. But then there's also cases like the psychiatrist series or the person who was convinced they were the reincarnation of Hitler, where I guess it's technically consensual because they're the ones posting the videos on the internet in the first place. So to some degree they were inviting feedback, and in both cases were causing harm, though I would argue that the recent situation is more harmful because this man has been completely doxxed. But in that case, feedback about the harm being caused and attempting to hold those people accountable is important. And I don't think there's a universe where it's okay to just be like, oh, well, their genuinely harmful behavior is caused by XYZ thing, so they're not responsible for it. And again, in the psychiatrist situation, there is a lot to branch off of and talk about in an important conversation, like how it's not uncommon for people to fall for their therapists and how that's typically handled, and that there's nothing inherently like morally wrong about feeling that way, for example. I'm seeing great conversations around HIPAA and how HIPAA works, and about the unregulated, harmful nature of mental health coaching. I'm also finally seeing mainstream conversations about the issues with AI-induced psychosis, which I have a video about coming out end of the month. And I mean, even I am talking about it here to some extent because there's thoughts coming up for me around this issue, though I'm deliberately trying to distance myself from that specific story as much as I can, and I don't think I'm doing a very good job of it, but I'm uncomfortable with how this whole situation has gone down. And I don't think saying, oh, we should ignore it entirely and not talk about it at all is the move here, because it's bringing up important conversations that I'm glad that we're having, and it is bringing criticism directed at this person saying, hey, this is a harmful thing that you're doing and you're in the wrong here, which is also important. But then at the same time, there is a level of visceral discomfort for me here around how this person is clearly entirely lost touch with reality and is struggling with something, if not many things. And not only does it have millions of views on many of those videos, so just far too many people know about this than need to, but also I'm seeing people actively feed into these delusions with comments and interactions on her lives and such. I'm seeing lots of comments talking about how they're here for the tea. I'm seeing videos being like, oh, a new character in the Psychiatrist saga has been unlocked, and all of this stuff that is treating this real human person like she is a reality TV show and not like she's a living being who's clearly going through something. And I don't know that there's a solution to this, because obviously anything is a slippery slope. We don't know, nor are we qualified to know, if somebody is or is not having a mental health crisis, or is on some substance, or is just wildly self-centered and unaware of what's going on outside of their own view of the world. I think in cases where somebody is completely detached from reality or has disclosed some of their mental health stuff, we can have some small bit of an idea, but we still really do not know. And nor should we say that somebody struggling with something means that they get a free pass from criticism, especially if they're causing active harm. And I'm also like not going to pretend that I don't also sometimes like seeing a person online get lightly dragged on the internet sometimes. Like, if you don't think about the real world consequences of stuff like this, it is kind of fun to watch a really complicated and dramatic story play out in real time. But it's not a story, right? It's real people who will now have this connected to them forever and is going to have a lot of consequences. And you know, in cases where like, okay, maybe something is a mental health episode and they're going to come out of that one day, I cannot imagine realizing all that happened at the scale to which it is known about and having that follow you for the rest of your life. And that's probably not particularly helpful or conducive to healing or moving on or anything like that, you know? It's just very strange to me how much we're all just like, cool with dehumanizing people and turning them into entertainment that we can actively engage with and maybe even influence the outcome of, without realizing what that actually means in like a real world sense. And more specifically, how I saw this take being brought up during the Coldplay affair situation, and that take being seen as like a party pooper opinion because those people deserved it and it's funny, and then not seeing it appear in this conversation really at all. I will say, after I wrote the script last night and I'm filming it now and it's gonna get posted tomorrow, I did see this morning like one person making a TikTok being like, hi, this is a mental health crisis and maybe we shouldn't be interacting with it that way. And all of the comments are like, oh, this is white woman tears. And I think to some degree, sure, right, this person is targeting a person of color and that's a problem, and yes. And also, we can hold lots of different things concurrently, you know? I think that is being used as a way to just completely negate the complicatedness of the situation. And this isn't the first time a conversation like this has sort of come up. I feel like there was some talk maybe 2 or so years ago about like commentary YouTube and how often the specific people that commentary YouTubers find as like weird people to talk about and make fun of were people who are clearly mentally ill or otherwise disabled and should not be further platformed, nor is it ethical to just make fun of disabled people because of their disabilities. And again, it does become a turning making fun of people into entertaining content situation that, regardless of disability status, just feels uncomfortable. But then on the flip side, it feels almost infantilizing to say, oh, this group of people shouldn't be primarily platformed or criticized at all, because who are we to decide who is and isn't a part of that specific group, right? That's a very slippery slope, and I don't know, it's really complicated, but I think the base point that I'm coming to here is like, hey, maybe making fun of people on the internet is maybe not super great, even if they posted that information themselves. Both because making fun of people is unkind, but also because the internet has a tendency to blow up things and people that were never meant to be seen by that many eyes or have that many people know who they are, and that can be both very traumatic and also genuinely dangerous in the case of doxing, as well as people actively feeding into delusions because they think it's funny. Like, I sort of get it. At first, I was interested in this particular story too. I think it is interesting, and I do think that having people call out why this is harmful and seek accountability is super valid and important, but it very quickly went beyond that and started to feel incredibly dystopian and freak show-esque in a way that I've seen happen over and over and over again to different, typically disabled and typically women, people online, and have yet to see people connect all of these dots together in one place. And so again, I feel really icky making a video about this topic at all, but I keep meaning to talk about it, and this specific case has become so well known that I was like, all right, I need to talk about it because it's on my mind. So I'm gonna leave this one here. I would be very interested to hear any and all of your thoughts in the comments down below. Again, I don't want to further any discussion on this particular person, but more around the discussions taking place around her and how this situation has happened many times over on the internet of late. So please keep your thoughts in that vein as well. I think we can hold several truths at once, and I don't want to contribute to the already weirdness going on while acknowledging that this is a great example of a wider thing that is a modern version of the freak show that is like the most dystopian of all of the versions of the modern freak show, if I'm honest, and nobody really seems to be talking about it. So anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for being. Remember, critical thinking and basic human empathy are really sexy. And I look forward to seeing you, my dear, in the next one.